Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel, Diamonds and Washi. My name is Katie, and if you are new here, hello, welcome. And if you are back, welcome back. Today I'm here to join you for week 7 of Summer with the Masters, which is an event I've been hosting since the beginning of June with my friend Anthony from Single and Placing. It's an event that's centered around artwork that, for our purposes, we call Old Masters artwork, and it's artwork that's from before the current copyright year in the United States. So anything from before the year 1928. And this is the 3rd year for this event, and it has been such a joy to see everyone's works in progress and finishes over the past month and a half. And the end of the event is in sight, which is so incredibly bittersweet, but we still have a couple more weeks of fabulous content and giveaways and whatnot to share with you. Be sure that you're following on Anthony's channel. He's going to have another weekly video up next week, and he's still giving away some really fun stuff for the event. And I also want to mention, as always, a huge thank you and all of our gratitude to our sponsors who have literally made this event possible and all of the giveaways that we've been able to do possible. I would love for you to take a look in the description box where we actually have a link to all of our sponsors for this particular event, and some are offering discount codes or themed goods for the event, and just want to give you the chance to support some of the wonderful small shops that are in our community and have chosen to partner with us for Summer with the Masters. So anyway, as I was kind of thinking on what I wanted to dive into for this week, I have always really been intrigued by mythology and by the stories that are behind the artwork that artists have created. And so this particular piece, which was my custom of choice for the year, is called Psyche Entering Cupid's Garden. It's by John William Waterhouse and was created in the year 1903-1904. The date seems to differ a little bit depending on where you check for sources. But while I have quite a lot of fascination with Greek and Roman mythology, I wasn't super familiar with the exact story of Psyche and Cupid and what might be the exact inspiration that John William Waterhouse used for this artwork. So I decided to do a little bit of digging, and I just found myself completely taken in by the story here. And I don't know if you guys have ever done any sorts of deep dives or even just read about different Greek or Roman myths and kind of the stories that are there, but they can be endlessly fascinating and sometimes really wild and dramatic and all over the place. But I really enjoyed this one. So I thought we'd do a little bit of a story time today, and I could read and share with you all what the mythology surrounding these characters is and what this scene in particular may have been depicting as part of that mythology. So I will credit the sources where I did find the most helpful information. There's one in particular that I'll be reading quite a bit from, but I love it. I really, really thoroughly enjoy all things mythology and just understanding why, and where John William Waterhouse may have gotten this inspiration. I've worked on other pieces from him in the past that have had stories and contexts behind them as well, and this is not the first time that he's used Greek or Roman mythology as a source of inspiration for his work. So anyway, to give you just a little bit of context, so Greek and Roman mythology, there is kind of a lot of crossover between the two. There's a lot of similarities. One of the main ways that they can differ is the names. Now, keep in mind, this is an amateur's perspective on mythology. I am not an expert. If you're a mythology expert and I say something that is completely egregiously out of line, please feel free to correct me in the comments. I am not an expert, just someone that thinks that this stuff is really interesting. But anyway, my understanding is that there are a lot of similarities between some of the stories in Greek and Roman mythology. Greek mythology predates Roman mythology, and so when Roman mythology kind of came about, it does reimagine some of those details, and we do see some differences in the names and sometimes the plot points But from what I've read, the story of Cupid and Psyche is pretty similar between Greek and Roman mythology. But the Roman mythology version is the one that tends to be a bit more well known. So in Roman mythology, the character is known as Cupid. In Greek mythology, it's Eros. So those names can be interchangeable when it comes to the story. Psyche is Psyche in both Greek and Roman mythology. But a lot of the other characters that you're going to hear about, I'm gonna share this story with their Roman names, but where I think of it and where it's applicable, I'll also mention what the Greek equivalent is. Like, for example, Venus in Roman mythology is Aphrodite in Greek mythology, or Jupiter in Roman mythology is Zeus in Greek mythology, that sort of thing. So let's start from the beginning. So there's once a mortal, not immortal, a mortal king and queen. They had 3 daughters. All 3 of them were gorgeous. They possessed great beauty. And but of the 3 of them, the most beautiful was the youngest, who was Psyche, our character here. So she was so beautiful that people actually began to forget about the one and only goddess of love, Venus, aka Aphrodite. So instead of praying to Venus and bringing her offerings, people started giving that and turning that towards Psyche instead. So naturally, Venus gets very angry and has vengeance on the brain. So Venus's son is Cupid, aka Eros. And Venus goes to Cupid and says, Cupid, I want you to strike Psyche down with one of your golden arrows of love and make her fall in love with a hideous monster. And talk about being bent on revenge. So Cupid says, all right, dutifully, says, all right, mom. And he cloaks himself with invisibility. He flies down from Mount Olympus and finds Psyche sleeping. He aims an arrow at her heart. Then she opens her eyes and surprises him. And he's so startled, he actually nicks himself with the arrow. And he falls in love with her instantly. And this is part of how Cupid's arrows work. And of course, we hear about Cupid in regards to Valentine's Day and all that stuff. But the idea was that if you're nicked by or hit by Cupid's arrow, then you fall in love with the next person or thing that you see. And in this case, Cupid nicked himself and Psyche's right there. So he falls in love with her. So then he's head over heels in love with her. And he can't follow his mom's instructions to make her fall in love with a hideous monster. And so he's like, all right, I'm out. He flies away and doesn't tell mom about how he borked this one. So he's like, it's fine. Everything's fine. But of course, over time, his mom notices that Psyche hasn't fallen in love with a monster or with anyone at all, for that matter. And she's still super bitter and jealous. And so Venus casts a spell on Psyche that prevents mortal men from pursuing her. Okay. Psyche's parents start to worry after both their oldest daughters have gotten married, but then their youngest, their most beautiful daughter, is still unmarried. So her parents are super scared that oh great, the gods are angry with us. So they decide, okay, we're going to go consult the Oracle of Apollo, because this is a thing that was done. So the Oracle of Apollo said that Psyche was destined to marry a creature who was feared by mortals and gods, lives on a mountaintop, and wields powers that not even immortals are impervious to. So parents are super distraught. They're upset. Psyche is in particular. She's distraught about it, but she's she's resigned to it as well. So she leaves her parents and she goes to the mountaintop to await her fate. While she's there, she feels this wind kind of gently blowing on her, which turns out to be Zephyrus. I forget who it said that was in Greek mythology, but it's the god of wind. And he gently lifts her off the ground and carries her to a meadow filled with flowers. And this wind god places her on the grass and she falls asleep. And I feel like that could, I mean, this could be one of the things that is being depicted here, is like, this is where she's fallen asleep and she's waking up because, yes, spoiler alert, this is Cupid's place that she's woken up in. So she wakes up, her eyes see that there's this like really lush green landscape. There's a palace off in the distance, which I think may be what we've got going on back here. And so she walks up to it, and when she enters it, she's like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. There's these invisible voices, which part of me is like, okay, you're hearing voices. No good. But no, there's these invisible voices that encourage her to make herself at home, tell her everything here belongs to you. They give her a feast. They wait on her. They play music. They sing to her. She's living her best life now. And so Psyche is sitting here thinking of the oracle's prophecy and thinking it's kind of hard to imagine that this monster that I'm destined to marry would give me this like super kind and welcoming reception. And so she's wondering what's going on. Okay. Then she falls asleep, goes to, when night falls, she goes to her sleeping chambers. So there in the dark, she has a visitor, a nighttime visitor, and it was the being that the oracle foretold. And this being tells her that he'll always visit her in the dark, and she must promise to never try and see what he looks like. So Psyche begins to look forward to his visits. She never sees him during the day. It's always at night. She wishes she could see the face of this man that she's beginning to fall in love with. But like nothing can happen. Nothing can come from that because that's not part of their deal. So she's there for a while. It's going on. This is kind of the rhythm of things. And after some time there, she starts to miss her family and she wants to see them. My guess is that could also be a potential inspiration for this particular piece, that it could be conveying like this is when she's trying to get a glimpse of Cupid that she doesn't know is Cupid. That she's like kind of peeking in, because the way like that this piece is composed and the way that I feel like the emotion that it's conveying is that sort of sense of she's trying to get a glimpse in, or she's trying to maybe sneak a little bit, and we don't know what's laying beyond like this door. Like we're also kind of wondering too what's going on. So I think that also is a possible specific inspiration within the story that maybe John William Waterhouse used for this piece, or a way that we as viewers could see it as well. So anyway, back to our story. Psyche's missing her family. She asks Cupid, I'm guessing in the dark, if she can at least see her sisters, and he goes back to the wind god that brought Psyche here before, Zephyrus, and asks like, hey, can you bring her sisters by for a visit at the palace? So her sisters show up and they see just all the treasures, all the beauty, all the things that she has. And of course they're very jealous. And they start grilling Psyche about her husband, or husband to be, like her nighttime visitor, and they're trying to find a flaw in what looks like just the absolute perfect life. So first, Psyche lies and says he spends all day hunting, and that's why he just only comes back at night. And they keep grilling her, and eventually Psyche relents and tells her sisters, I've never seen the guy. Like, I've never actually seen his face. And so her sisters are delighted by this, and what they see is like this great misfortune that Psyche has. And they remind her of the prophecy's description of this frightening monster that she was supposed to marry, thinking it's this person. And the sisters insist, Psyche, you have to see his face. You got to figure it out so you can see his face. So the sisters come up with this plan for Psyche to see his face. And they say, okay, take a knife and an oil lamp to your bedroom at night. And the plan was, light the lamp when he falls asleep and have the knife as protection. And Psyche first protests, but that night, Cupid falls asleep. She's too curious. She lights the oil lamp. She holds it over him, and the light obviously reveals not a hideous monster, but this super strikingly handsome dude, Cupid. the god of love. So she's so distracted by his good looks. She doesn't notice that off of this lamp that she's holding over him to see, there's a drop of hot oil, and it falls on Cupid and burns him. And of course he wakes up. He sees her with a knife and sees that she's defied his orders to never try to see his face. And he's hurt, and he vows he's never going to see her again, flies out the window. Psyche is heartbroken and goes in search of him. So as Psyche's searching for Cupid, she visits her sisters again and tells them all about Cupid. The story of Cupid's beauty makes her sisters just that much more envious of her and this perfect life that she had. And after Psyche leaves, both of her sisters go up to the mountaintop to try to win Cupid for themselves, because of course they did. Each sister jumped off the mountain, asking Zephyrus, the god of wind, to carry them by wind to Cupid in place of Psyche. Zephyrus did not assist either of them, and both sisters plummeted to their depths in the rocky sea below. Psyche is still looking for Cupid and comes across the temple of Circe, who is Demeter in Greek mythology, the goddess of the harvest, and she notices the temple's in disarray and starts to tidy up and put everything back in order. Suddenly, a voice startles her. Psyche turns and sees Circe's standing there. Psyche asks for help finding Cupid, and while Circe believed Psyche was deserving of that help, she also believed Psyche had wronged Venus. Circe advised Psyche to find Venus and ask her for help to find Cupid. So Psyche finds Venus, apologizes, and asks for guidance. Surely this cannot go wrong. So upon seeing Psyche, Venus is once again overcome with anger towards her and tells her that Cupid's still hurt and recovering, and Psyche should prove her worthiness and love by completing a series of tasks. So Psyche, of course, agrees, and Venus assigns Psyche 3 increasingly difficult tasks, all set up for her to fail. The first one, Venus took Psyche to this enormous pile of grains, beans, barley, and lentils. And they're all mixed together. Venus instructs Psyche to separate all the grains for Venus's birds and says it's got to be done by nightfall. So Psyche looks at this big task and is obviously in despair, because how but she tries, and as she begins sorting out these beans, she notices a colony of ants come to assist her. The ants help carry the grains to separate piles, and by the time Venus returned at night, they're all sorted, they're all good to go. And Venus was enraged, saying there was no way Psyche could have completed this task herself. Still, on we move to the second task the next morning. Venus tells Psyche her next task is to gather wool from the golden fleece of every sheep grazing in the field on the other side of the river. Venus said if Psyche could not complete the task, she shouldn't bother returning. And Psyche thought this seemed like an easy task and began to cross the river. Then as she's crossing the river, the reeds in the river start to shake, and some river nymphs appear to warn her, saying that the rising sun made the sheep vicious and that the rams would try to destroy any mortal that came into the field. They advised her to wait until noon when the sun rose, and the sheep ventured off to the shade of the trees to sleep. And so Psyche followed their advice and was able to collect golden fleece from each of the sheep, and she returned to Venus, who once again was incredulous that Psyche managed to complete this task because, again, she'd been set up to fail. The final task. So this one, Venus is lamenting that her own beauty had waned in caring for her son, her ailing son, Cupid. Psyche was to go to the underworld and ask its queen, Proserpina, who is Persephone in Greek mythology, to place some of her beauty in a box that Venus supplied. Psyche knew that no mortal could make it to the underworld and return. However, she knew she had to try, so she had the chance to win back Cupid. She's ready to throw herself off of a tower to get to the underworld when she heard a voice, because apparently speaking towers are a thing. The voice tells her how to get to the underworld and make it safely to Proserpina. And she followed the voice's instructions and gets safely there, and Proserpina placed some of her beauty in the box Psyche offered her. Psyche then follows the voice safely back out of the underworld. And before disappearing, the voice warned her, don't open the box. But as Psyche's walking, she starts thinking of Cupid, thinking she still wants him to desire her, and thought that taking a little bit of this beauty from the box might help. But when she opened it, she falls instantly into a deep, death-like sleep. And yes, this is one of the myths that does serve as inspiration for some slightly more modern day fairy tales and Disney movies that we know well and love. But okay, so this is, rest assured, spoiler, there's a happy ending. This is one of the very, very few Greek and Roman mythology stories that has a happy ending for our couple. But so at this point, Cupid's healed from his wound, physically and emotionally. He flies out the window in his mother's home and finds Psyche asleep. He says he draws the sleep away from her and returns it to the box. Is the box a trap? And Psyche wakes up and is really grateful to see Cupid standing there. And he tells her to return the box to Venus, and then he would find her again once he's gone, and enlisted some help to soothe his mother's temper. So talk about mother-in-law, monster-in-law issues here. So Cupid flies to Olympus and appeals to Jupiter, aka Zeus, to help him be with the woman he's in love with, Psyche. And Jupiter is so touched by his story that he does agree to help. And he summons Venus and reminds her that anger dulls beauty. And he persuades Venus to let Psyche and Cupid be happy together. Venus agrees, and then Psyche is brought to Olympus for a celebratory feast. One of the gods gives her a cup of ambrosia to drink, and once she drinks from that, Psyche becomes immortal. So later on, Cupid and Psyche get married, and they live happily ever after. So like I said, you guys, this is one of those rare instances where we get a happy ending for one of these Greek and Roman couples, and in this kind of ancient mythology, because I don't know if you've read or are familiar with other stories and myths, but typically there's a lot more death and a lack of happy endings. So it's nice that this one they do end up together and they get to live happily ever after. So I hope that you enjoyed that story time. Honestly, I was really I felt like there was that was a fun story. There was intrigue. I was like, what happened? Like, what's going to happen next? What is she going to have to overcome? Is she going to find out? Are they going to reconcile? And it gave me new appreciation for this painting too, to imagine what John William Waterhouse may have had in mind when he was creating this scene. And I did do some digging, and I didn't find necessarily a concrete answer for like, this is definitely what he was trying to portray. But certainly this is, of course, the Psyche and the Cupid's garden that is from this particular myth. So that was fun, you guys. I encourage you, if you have an old master's piece that you've been working on, and if you're not familiar with the story behind it, especially if it was inspired by mythology like this one was, even if it wasn't though, I encourage you to just often if you Google the name of the piece and then the artist, you'll usually get some more information about it, or even just put in like inspiration for, insert your your artwork here, and read a little bit more about it. And I feel like it just adds that next level of appreciation and enjoyment for this beautiful artwork that you've also gotten to enjoy working on as a diamond painting. So anyway, that's the story behind Psyche entering Cupid's garden, and the start to finish of our fabulous characters, Psyche and Cupid, aka Eros. So I love it. With that being said, I want to go ahead and shift into talking about weekly prizes. So first thing that I want to do is to announce the winners from my week 5 video. And I had 3 prizes that I gave away, and I have 3 winners to announce for those prizes this week. So the first prize that I'm giving away is an accessories set that has some on-theme release paper from Crafts with Crashly and some cover minders from Galloway's Gallery that I'll be mailing out to you. And the winner of this prize is... take a look at the screen. Congratulations. Keep an eye on your email, and I will be reaching out to you here in the next few weeks just to let you know that it's on the way. The second prize I have to give away is an amazing set of Old Masters accessories from Amazing Craft Shop. And the winner of this prize is, take a look at the screen. Congratulations. Keep an eye on your email as well. I'll be in touch very soon. And then last but not least, you guys, I have a gemstone pen from Enablers Outpost that's themed after the Alphonse Mucha gemstone panels that they have in stock. And the winner of this pen is, take a look at the screen. Congratulations and congrats to all three winners, and thanks for your patience as I work on getting these prizes out to you in the next couple weeks. Don't hesitate to reach out by email if you have any questions at all. So let me tell you about the prizes that I have to give away this week. I have a couple of gift cards, 2 prizes to give away, and from our sponsors, they've been donated, and I'm super appreciative as always. The first one that I have to give away, and I will tell you how to enter in just a moment, but let me tell you what I'm giving away first. So first, I have a $25 gift card from Diamond Painting Shop. They've given away a couple of gift cards over the course of our event, and I really, really appreciate Rosa over there. If you haven't had the chance to check out Diamond Painting Shop yet and seen their beautiful variety of Old Masters artwork, it's lovely. And I already have my eye on one of their Times of Day Alphonse Mucha panels. They're incredibly beautiful, and I cannot wait to try one. I worked on a kit from them last year and was really happy with how it turned out. It was beautiful and really enjoyable to work on. So thanks for donating this $25 gift card, Rosa, from Diamond Painting Shop. And then the other gift card that I have to give away is a $15 gift card from DP with Sparklers. So DP with Sparklers, if you haven't had the chance to check out their shop yet, they have the widest variety of specialty diamonds. A lot of us like to swap in some special drills, whether it's crystals or metallics or glow in the dark, or ABs, of course, to enhance our paintings and take them to the next level. DB with Sparklers also, though, offers some specialty drills that I have never seen anywhere else. And I'm always like, what is that? Like, they have some bubble drills. They have a new kind of metallic drills that I saw someone working on with lately. So just go and take a look. You'll be there for a while because there's quite a lot there. And I feel like their prices are incredibly reasonable as well. And they often have discount codes running, especially for events that they sponsor like ours. So I need to go do some shopping myself. So anyway, thank you to DP with Sparklers for donating this gift card for us to give away this week. And they've donated multiple gift cards as well. So to enter for these prizes, because they'll each go to a different person, I would like for you to leave a comment on this video letting me know what your favorite character or story is from classic, like Greek or Roman mythology, or just mythology in general, because I always like hearing about other stories, and so I'm curious to hear. And if you don't really have one, that's totally fine. You can just say the one that I shared with you guys today about Cupid and Psyche. So please leave a comment on this video with that, but don't include the words giveaway or prize, please. Those will get filtered out just to avoid pulling in any spammers or bots or anything like that. And I'll have this giveaway open through, let's say, Wednesday, July 26th. And I'll announce the winners from this as part of one of my wrap-up videos. Anthony and I are still nailing down exactly what our wrap-up is going to be and on what day. So please stay tuned and rest assured that I'll make that announcement, and I'll be sure to contact the winners by email as well. But that'll just because we haven't nailed it down yet, I don't want to tell you one thing when I don't actually have it set in stone just yet. But I will have the winners announced, right around when the event is ending, or within the week after. We'll say within the week after the event has ended. So best of luck to everyone. Oh, the other step, step 2 of 2. If you are just joining in and entering for a weekly prize and that means you haven't yet filled out the entry form that's in the descriptions of all of our event videos, please fill out that entry form. If you've already filled it out for a past giveaway or just as part of participating in the event, You don't have to fill it out more than once. This includes if you've noticed that the way that YouTube displays names has changed. It's fine. You don't have to fill it out again if you filled it out at the very beginning and your name looks different. The way that we pull winners, we're able to still see your name either way. So don't fret about that. But of course, please reach out if you have any questions at all. But that's it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed doing a little kind of story time and going through the story of Psyche and Cupid together. I know that I just am always fascinated by this sort of thing, and I hope that it was interesting for you guys as it was for me. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Thank you everyone that's been joining in on Summer with the Masters. Be sure that you're subscribed to Anthony, Single and Placing's channel so that you're seeing his weekly content. He's got the week 8 video going up next weekend. And of course, he's always putting out a lot of other great content too. So not just Summer with the Masters stuff. So you should definitely be following along and subscribe to his channel if you're not already. But thank you guys for watching and for tuning in. I hope that you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll chat with you guys again soon. Bye.